Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to do this talk for y'all. I hope everybody is doing well. So you already kind of got an introduction, so I'll just quickly run through this. Yeah, so I'm a senior director of engineering for our WooCommerce core platform and product group. I've been at Automattic for about 6 years. During this time, I've also led teams that are responsible for things like our marketplace extension. I led the teams that were building WooCommerce Payments, which is a product that we launched a few years back. And in general, I've spent 18 years in software development, with the majority of that time really working in and around the open source side of things. So in this talk, we'll be going back to the future a bit. We're going to look at a high level where WooCommerce has come from, and then we'll look a little bit further into the future and just kind of see where we're headed. In case you don't notice, I have been playing with some of the new AI tech. So if any of these images look kind of crazy, they are Dolly images. All right. So first up, we'll go back in time. We'll kick off in the year 2018. So a big focus for us in 2018, especially the first half of it, which I'm sure many of folks remember, is GDPR. This was a big one for WooCommerce specifically because it meant building support for things like the privacy policies, export and erasure of data, data retention settings. But really, a big portion of this project was the fact that it was not just relegated to core. We had to roll out this work across our entire catalog of extensions, which at the time we had 100 plus extensions that we needed to roll all of these changes out to. So that was a big, big investment for us. Another milestone that we hit in 2018 was shipping V3 for the REST API. We included a whole bunch of new updates. There was new ways of sorting data. There was new ways of doing batch updates and the ability to do refunds. And then we also spent a good deal of time just on general developer quality of life updates. There was a lot that we invested in actually during this year on this side of things, but really the major standouts for me was when we started to ship Action Scheduler with Core. This really improved our dependency issues that we were having across our extensions that relied on Action Scheduler. We shipped a whole slew of new filters for developers to hook into, and that's what really started also bringing HTML5 support. All right, as we headed into 2019, that was a time when we started to buckle down on performance. It had become a big issue for merchants, and it was something that we were going to spend a good deal of time investing into. And it was another time when we were starting to focus on the Gutenberg side of things. So looking at performance, we started shipping improvements to things like transient validation, REST API initialization, caching, queries, webhooks, a whole lot more really. But just in general, trying to improve the overall performance of the WooCommerce core software. So like I mentioned, Gutenberg, this was a time that we really started to focus heavily on the Gutenberg side of things. We were really just starting to get our own initial foundation in place. We rolled out a suite of blocks for merchants to start using with their products on the product side of things. And this was kind of our building ground for what we've been continuing to build into from there. Heading into 2020, we really started to get serious on the UI side of things. And this was also the time when we had PHP 8 coming as well. So PHP 8, this was a big initiative for us because this was another one similar to GDPR, where it was not just core platform, this was all of our products. So this meant doing a massive audit across every WooCommerce product to ensure that all the changes necessary were made to ensure compatibility with PHP 8. But we also did a lot of work to provide documentation out to the community so that developers also knew how that they could upgrade and be compatible with PHP 8 as well. This was really important to us to make sure we got ahead of this one. On the UI side of things, this was when we brought WooCommerce Admin into core. So that came with a whole other slate of UI improvements, things like the dashboard, analytics, our activity panel, inbox notifications, and all sorts of other fun things. And then onboarding. Onboarding has always been something that we've been iterating on, at least as far back as I remember. But it was really during this time that we started to focus on it, improving that experience pretty heavily. And so what we did is we shipped a new onboarding wizard, um, with the goal of just getting merchants set up on their stores faster, easier, and more intuitively. All right, moving into 2020, or I'm sorry, moving into 2021, we really started to dig back into the underlying infrastructure. We spent a good deal of time auditing and improving just the underlying code base, especially in regards to security. We spent a good deal of time rolling out some major releases for Action Scheduler that were long overdue. And we've doubled down on our efforts around WooCommerce blocks. This saw things like rolling out a lot more blocks than we had before. We were doing a lot of blocks integrations directly into our extensions. And just in general, we were investing heavily into our cart and checkout block experience. And finally, last year, that was a year when we really started to invest again back into our core infrastructure and the performance side of things. So that was when we rolled out the mono repo, which is a long-term initiative to bring all of our core repos together, just to improve the overall efficiency and ease of working with the core products. And then another major milestone was the high performance order storage work, which had been a very long requested feature from folks and is intended to improve the overall performance of WooCommerce. And then as part of the blocks investment we had been making, we had also been quietly behind the scenes developing a new API to power the blocks called the Store API. And so at a high level, the purpose for the Store API is to allow unauthenticated requests to be made to the WooCommerce stores to allow for customization on the front end of things. And so we were very excited to get this out into the hands of developers so that they could start using it as well. And so while that was just a few of the focus areas we had around a lot of the core efforts, I did also want to call out there was a lot more going on during this time. This was during the time when we acquired both Prosperous and MailPoet and integrating all of their products. We released WooCommerce Payments, which was our integrated payment solution. And then we rebuilt WooCommerce Shipping and brought in new shipping providers for that. On top of all that, this was when we did a total overhaul of developer.woocommerce.com during these years as well to really just improve the portal for the developer community. All right. Now that we've taken a look back, let's jump forward in time and start taking a look into the future and where we're headed. Also, if you can't tell, that is supposed to be a time machine, but I'm not entirely sure how it's supposed to work. All right. So before we get going, I do want to say this isn't a roadmap. These are all features and functionality that we have at various stages of development, whether it's planning or actually in progress. But it's not intended to be a roadmap per se, as much as an opportunity for us to dig a little bit deeper into some things that you may have just only heard about. So first up, I want to chat about the community and a lot of the investments we're making there, because this is a big one for us right now. One of the things that we've really recognized and are trying to invest a lot more into are community events. We found that it really, really helps bring our teams alongside the community and forms a much closer working relationship with each other. And so doubling down and tripling down on these efforts is something that we're really trying to do. So if you missed it, we actually just ran this last week. It's called WooCommerce Contributor Day. And what it was is we spent 24 hours with WooCommerce developers all across the community to just work on closing core issues, both from our core repo and also from our blocks repos. It was the first time we had actually run something like this, and it turned out very successful. It allowed the contributors to work alongside all of our internal Woo teams. They were able to ask questions. We solved problems with them, and just in general had a good bit of fun. So, like I said, it was quite successful. So we are looking to do a lot more of these into the future. If you missed it, really encourage you to try and check out one of the future ones. It was really fun, and we're really looking for engagement from the community. So another event that we do run on a monthly basis, and this has been going on for quite some time, is our developer office hours. If you haven't attended one of these, we do it in our developer Slack channel. It's hosted by our developer advocates, and every month they'll bring in several of the WooCommerce engineers from our teams. We love doing these. It's a great time for us to be able to connect with the community and just kind of talk about what's going on with WooCommerce and work that we're doing, questions that people are having. But it is an area where we're continuing to try and make improvements. We want to make improvements to the format, the way that they work, uh, the fact that they're very synchronous versus asynchronous, and how we can get people involved that way. So, I definitely also encourage you to pay attention to those and give us feedback, because we're looking to make improvements there as well. And then we'll talk a little bit more about HPOS in a later slide, but I did want to call out this event that we've been experimenting with, which is called, we've been calling upgrade parties. And upgrade parties is a time that allows developers to work alongside our team as they're making critical upgrades to their extensions. And this is in support of new functionality that we'll be rolling out. So things like HPOS is a great example of an upgrade party that we did recently, where it gave people time to spend with our teams asking questions and understanding better how they could actually get HPOS integrated into their development. All right, so let's move into pull requests. This is an area that we're taking a closer look into, and it's kind of near and dear to my heart. So if you go look at the WooCommerce repo right now, you'll see we have approximately 250 open PRs. If you filter down for the community contribution label, out of those 250 PRs, we have 131 that are open from the community currently. This is not a great experience. This is not good for the internal teams to have this kind of burden on the queue, but it's also just a terrible experience for everyone who is given their time to try and contribute to WooCommerce. So one of the things that we're doing right now to address this is we're doing a full audit of the PR queue. So you'll start seeing our goal is to get this down to 0 from the community contribution side of things, to get those closed or merged. And then from there, we'll start putting in new processes in place so that we can make sure that these PRs are addressed in a timely manner and keep that pipeline flowing again. Okay, so another area that we're investing in right now is our dev environment quality of life. So these are seemingly little things, but I think they can have a pretty big impact on the way that people work. And so we're doing things like updating PR and issue templates to make them easier and more intuitive for developers to follow. We're making updates to the development of the core software to ensure that you can work on WooCommerce on all different operating systems and environments. And just in general, we're going through and updating all of our developer docs to make sure that they stay up to date and that they've got the latest info so that people know where to find stuff and how to get it running. And then also on the note of developer documentation, I did want to mention that this is another one that we're in the stages of a very large project to overhaul all of our WooCommerce documentation. I don't have too many details to provide on this one at this time, because this one is still very early in the planning stages, but you'll start to see this rolling out, into the future. And really, it's just designed to make the documentation easier and more accessible for people to find exactly what they're needing to get up to speed on WooCommerce and how to build on top of it. So those are a few key areas that just at a high level of the activities that we're doing across the WooCommerce developer community to try and bring our internal teams more alongside the community and work closer together. So another major focus area for us right now is infrastructure. And more specifically, what I mean by infrastructure is really the investments that we're making into things like performance, scalability, security, maintainability, etc. Okay, so HPOS, we kind of mentioned this briefly earlier, and I'm sure many of y'all have already heard of HPOS, but if you haven't, it's the high performance order storage project that we've been doing. I'm not going to spend really too much time on it here, but I did want to mention it because it is an area that we continue to invest a lot into. It was a massive undertaking for us, honestly, and we've seen significant performance gains from it, which continues to speak to the benefit of the investment we're making here. So we'll continue to see more investment into the future. On the REST API side of things, we continue to have a longer term goal of hitting 100% coverage of functionality through the API. We continue to make strides on that. On the back end of that, we are also investing just in the test coverage of the API itself. We have a goal there to have all of the CRUD operations tested, which we are very, very close to hitting, which is exciting. On the security side of things, there isn't too terribly much I can say other than we're making significant investments in this area, especially around automated security scanning infrastructure that we're building and running, and as well as just in general doing ongoing manual security audits, not just on our core software, but across all of our products. This is a big area that we continue to invest into and take very seriously. Touching a little bit on the security side of things, we have a new developer tool that we're starting to push out, which is I'm very excited about. It's called the Quality Insights Toolkit. It's a really powerful tool. It allows you to run a whole suite of tests against your extensions. So things like end-to-end tests, activation tests, security tests, PHP tests, a whole lot more. You can just run at the click of a button, and you'll get a detailed report with feedback down to the line of code of where the errors are at. So you'll see us talking more and more about this throughout the year as we start to really roll it out to developers and start getting your feedback on how to make improvements to it. But we've been using it internally for a little while now, and it's really cool. All right, so moving into the product side of things, this is an area that we're also obviously investing pretty heavily into, and so I wanted to cover it just at a high level. Blocks. So the Gutenberg blocks continue to be a big investment for us. Very exciting investment. Something that we have a lot of teams working on in various capacities. And just as an example, we just released new patterns. We just released mini cart customizations, styling work for the cart and checkout blocks, and you'll continue to see a lot more releases throughout the year. And internally, we have a goal of sooner rather than later, getting to Gutenberg blocks being the default experience for WooCommerce. So another product area that it's been in the works for some time and just recently launched is WooExpress. If you haven't heard of it, there's a great intro to it, especially for developers that I've got linked there down at the bottom of the slide. And it's out on the developer blog. In general, though, WooExpress is a way for you to spin up sites for clients on a hosted environment. It allows you to focus just on development of WooCommerce in general and leave all the infrastructure maintenance to us. It's early days, so this is a product that we're really looking for a lot of good feedback of how we can improve it over time. So as you start playing with it, definitely reach out, give us feedback, let us know how it's working for you, how it's not working, what sorts of stuff you'd like to see. Onboarding continues to be a big investment for us. Despite the massive improvements we've made over the years, it's still an area that we continue to get feedback from merchants that it's not intuitive enough. It's still too long and too difficult to get WooCommerce up and running quickly. So we're going to take a very close look at the entire onboarding experience and do a full revamp. With the goal being to really just in general make it cleaner and a lot fewer steps of just getting WooCommerce set up out of the box. So this is one you'll see more about well into the future as we start making strides there. And then on top of this, there's a new task that we're going to be introducing at the end of the onboarding experience. This is very, very early days on this one, so there will be a lot more details to come as we get further along, but really it's designed to give merchants an understanding of how to get their store truly online. We've gotten a lot of feedback around that. And so this will have integrations with participating hosting providers that will allow us to tie into their site publishing infrastructure. So our WooCommerce merchants can get online with those hosts, especially much quicker and easier. On the product side of things, honestly, I just am barely scratching the surface of what we're doing. We still have a lot of features and functionality coming out for things like WooCommerce payments. We have product like WooPay coming out. It's currently in beta, and then features coming, new features and functionality coming from MailPoet, and just a whole lot more. So, wrapping up, I've had a chance to take a look at some of the major initiatives across the future, uh, excuse me, for the future across the community, across our community infrastructure and product areas. But again, I'm really just hitting the high level here. So we're continuing to research and ideate on things like AI, Web3, tooling, scaffolding, automation, and just a whole host of other things that you'll continue to hear a lot more about as we get further into just even the planning stages with a lot of these. So a lot more to come, a lot of exciting stuff. And yeah, we'll keep paying attention to the developer blog as we continue to chat about it with the community. So with that, thank you so much for having me here. If you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me in the WooCommerce community Slack channels.